So much for being here. So excited to have you all. Um, okay, so I will go ahead and start introducing our event, and we're going to go from here. All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here today. Today is March 1st, and we are starting National Women's History Month. I think this is exciting. I just came back from a symposium that was all about women's wealth, and it was a great way to kick off National Women's History Month. And so I'm excited that we're kicking it off here at the Center for Global Partnerships and Learning, here in association with Pepperdine University's Graduate School of Education and Psychology. I am going to quickly talk a little bit about what the center is about. For those of you who do not know about the Center for Global Partnerships and Learning offers various certificate programs. We have a certificate program coming up soon on diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging. We have our podcast called Elevating Voices of Leadership. If you would like to be on the podcast, contact me and let me know, and I will go ahead and hook you up. We also have our Scholarships Without Borders journal. So if you are all looking to get published, which I highly recommend all of you do, please look into publishing with our journal. And we have other workshops, and we obviously are doing all of these different events every month to celebrate all of these different holidays and different heritage months that we will be encountering throughout the year. So thank you so much for all being here and for celebrating with us. I am excited to announce, and I'm going to I'm going to spotlight Quennette, and I'm going to spotlight myself really, really quickly here, because I'm going to introduce Quennette to all of you. I'm excited that she is here speaking today for National Women's History Month and kicking it off. Let me introduce you to her. Quennette Standford Taylor is a doctoral candidate in the Global Leadership and Change program here at Pepperdine University. That's our Ph.D. program, focusing on social justice for marginalized communities. Hailing from Memphis, Tennessee, Quennette is a boy mom, dog mom, corporate businesswoman, and entrepreneur. She holds an MBA in HR management concentration from Webster University and a BA in management from Christian Brothers University with over 18 years of operations and HR experience. She has contributed to several Fortune 150 organizations, including Walgreens, Boeing, and Honeywell. Currently, Quennette is an HR director at Nike and founder of Tailor-Made Custom People Solutions consulting firm. Her passion for social justice, particularly regarding the experiences of urban youth, is rooted in her upbringing in the inner city, where she witnessed firsthand the inequitable distribution of opportunities based on race and class. These formative experiences have fueled her educational and professional endeavors, now driving her research agenda to advance communities through critical consciousness and the strengthening of psychological and social capital. Welcome, Quennette, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much. Happy to be with you all. I do have a very short presentation. I promise I won't PowerPoint you all to death this evening. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And in typical Zoom bingo fashion, can you guys let me know when you see my screen?
We can see it.
Perfect. Thank you. Awesome. Well, I'm very excited to be speaking with you all today. I see a lot of familiar faces and a lot of support from cohorts and friends. And I'm going to be talking to you guys all about mentoring and sponsorship on this first day of Women's History Month, which I'm super proud to be in front of you, and at the tail end of Black History Month. So I am Quennette Standford Taylor and a PhD candidate in Global Leadership and Change. And here we go. I need to move your faces so I can... There we go. All right. So I am not the foremost authority on mentoring and sponsorship, but I am here to tell you about how it changed the course of my life and how I've seen it impact others. So I want to start by telling you a little bit about me. So this is a photo of me and my husband, Otis Stanford, who unfortunately passed away and departed this earth in 2019. And I owe him a great deal of gratitude about the person and the woman that I've become. And so I always want to start with honoring him. I am a boy mom. I have two boys, 17 and 8. They run me ragged. Boy mom life is not an easy life. I also am a dog mom, as mentioned before. Specifically, I have two German Shepherds. I had three, and my Foxy passed away last year. And I will tell you, German Shepherds are definitely raptor in a cuter form. I am a proud member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, which is the background that you see behind me for Women's History Month. I am 17 years a Zeta this year in April. As mentioned, I work in human resources at the Nike organization. I very much have a passion for HR, and we'll talk a little bit more about why. My degrees come from Christian Brothers University here in Memphis, Tennessee, and Webster University in St. Louis. And I need you guys to pray and agree with me that this is my aim for graduation, May 18th, this year for my PhD. So once I am done, I would like to get back to the things I really enjoy doing, which I have had to put a big hold on, which is traveling, shopping, going to the movies, stage plays. I can't wait to get back in the choir and sing. Salt life, you can catch me by the ocean all the time. I think one part of my retirement plan is becoming a beach bum. I love to read, and I cannot wait to read for pleasure. And I love meeting new people, and I believe that the diversity of this world makes it a beautiful place. All right, so how did I get here? So we'll briefly go through a timeline of my life. I was born in Saginaw, Michigan, but my mother moved me and my brothers to Memphis when I was 5 years old. So with Memphis came living life in the inner city, living in poverty, where I attended failing schools, where there was a lack of access, exposure, and opportunities, and where I knew I loved education, but my pursuit of education was pretty aimless. Statistics say that it's nearly impossible for a poor Black girl from the inner city who was raised in a single parent household to grow up to be where I am. Mentoring is a really big part of my story, and we're definitely going to get into that. While 91% of Black girls graduate high school, only 31% of Black women attained an undergraduate degree between 2011 and 2021. But this does not consider socioeconomic background. And when you put poverty into that, that number significantly decreases. So my love of school and God got me to college, but I guarantee you I was winging it. I loved math. And so I decided I was going to be an accountant. Never met an accountant, didn't know what accountants did, but I figured I liked numbers and it matched. That's not ultimately what I graduated with because I figured out very quickly that I did not want to be an accountant. And so I took the way out that was either business administration or psychology, which was everyone who didn't know what they were going to do with their lives. That's what they went for. And so that's kind of where I landed. That degree landed me with an internship at the Walgreens company in management. And I will tell you, I was very, very excited about the $13.25 that I was making, coming from making zero. That seemed like a lot of money at the time. Walgreens, I was fortunate enough to actually move to California. In California, I found new experiences with diversity. In the South, there's not a huge mix of diversity. You have Black folks, you have white folks, and that's pretty much was my experience. In California, again, didn't have a lot of direction. I had a degree and I had a job, and that's all I had. I was a serial applicant for many different jobs. I didn't really care what they were. I just wanted out of retail. I didn't want to work holidays or nights anymore. And I would apply for anything that looked interesting. And so I actually was good at my job. I love people. I love developing people. And several leaders in Walgreens in the store areas took me under their wing to help me grow and develop and be stronger. At that point, I was either aiming to leave or to be the district manager. However, life had other plans for me, which I am so excited for. Opportunity rings with stand chart function within Walgreens, processing payroll. And I applied for a job that was open. And this was the very first time I was in my 20s that I met a professional Black woman that was not a teacher. And she blew my mind. Not only did she blow my mind, but she gave me a chance. And I know looking back that she took a chance because I had zero experience in the job that I was applying for. And I knew some of the people that I was applying against. But she saw something in me. She'd heard about how much of a hard worker I was, and she decided to take a chance. Through that opportunity, stepping into HR, I began to get exposure to a whole new world that I had never experienced before, being surrounded by Black women who had goals and dreams and ambitions that I had never, ever considered. That exposure was very pivotal and critical for me. I'll never forget a trip to headquarters where I got a chance to meet the CHRO of Walgreens at the time, and she was a Black woman. And they brought the entire HR team out. And I remember meeting her, and I don't know where the boldness came from, but I told her I wanted her job one day. And she looked at me and she smiled and she said, "Come and get it." And the rest is history. I fell in love with HR. I went back and pursued my master's degree, and I knew that HR was going to be the life for me. Um, so in that role, again, proved myself, did very well, and I got promoted and moved up to Washington State. More new experiences, more diversity that I hadn't experienced in the past. This is when I found myself being the only. I was the only Black person, period, in this district office. I had the entire Pacific Northwest, and so 5 states. Most of the time when I went into any store that was outside of Tacoma, Washington, I was still the only Black person, and I had never been in that situation before. Um, I found out after the fact in a couple of places that I had to drive to because they were a short 3 to 5 hour drive, that I was in the KKK neighborhoods and didn't know it. And so it was a very interesting experience for me. I grew in that discomfort. And unfortunately, I ran into some health issues where I was actually diagnosed with cancer. I am nearly 10 years cancer free, so hallelujah. But those are just some of the bumps in the road of my journey. Leaving Walgreens, I actually went to the Boeing company, did well in Boeing, and they wanted to send me to South Carolina to help with their anti-union efforts. So in Charleston, South Carolina, I was there for a brief time. So that was just a pit stop. I was not a fan. It's a beautiful place. I am a girl that loves big cities. So give me New York, LA, London all day long. But Charleston wasn't the place for me. And so I got on out of there and went down to Tampa, Florida, where I joined the Honeywell company. Again, I was the only. But Washington had very much prepared me for this role. But I experienced some severe unfair treatment. And there was a lot that I endured, and definitely a test behind my testimony. Funny enough, my Facebook memory popped up yesterday that that's exactly the post that I made where I was promoted. And I said, if you guys only knew the test behind this testimony, where I had a boss that was phenomenally horrible. And I think that you can learn something from the good ones, but you should also be taking things away from the bad ones. But what I did find after several complaints and no one had done anything, I finally got a brand new boss who happened to be a Black woman, the only other Black woman who'd ever come to my site down in Florida. She heard the story, she did some investigating, and finally something happened. Long story short, I was promoted into that role, which really pivoted me into the leadership in the HR world. um, Experienced some grief in that season where my husband passed away. At the same time, Nike came calling. And so that actually brought me full circle right on back to good old Memphis, Tennessee, where I experienced pandemic. I experienced additional grief with the loss of a cousin. I also experienced growth. I experienced Pepperdine, which unlocked a lot for me, including my entrepreneurial spirit. And I think I realized my purpose. And so there's a lot I want to get after and a lot that I owe to this journey, but a lot that I really, really owe to these women along the way who saw something in me that was untapped. And had they not crossed my path, had I not met them, where would I be? I have the nerve to walk my own way, however hard, in my search for reality, rather than climb upon the rattling wagon of wishful illusions. I love Zora Neale Hurston, and not just because she's my sorority sister, because her words are so powerful. This is a difficult stance to take in life, and it's even harder for women. I would not have gotten to where I am without these very special women that I mentioned who God placed on my path. They saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. At Walgreens, the woman who took a chance on me and gave me that opportunity, she has literally been my confidant and my coach every step of the way since then. And so I owe a great deal to her. She has helped me with interviews. She has helped me open doors, and she continues to be there to be a support. She's a mentor and she is a sponsor. There have been several offers I've had to turn down because she is trying to get me into a vice president role somewhere. And that those are the kind of people you need in your life and you need in your corner. At Honeywell, my leader who came in and actually made a difference and made a huge impact on my life was a phenomenal leader. I took a lot from how she led. And to this day, I continue to reach out to her when I have challenges, especially people issues and leading teams, because she does it so well. And so she continues to offer me guidance. Her guidance never fails me. And I, again, owe a great deal of gratitude to her. And recently, I filed for my LLC a couple of years ago on the death anniversary of my husband, because I wanted that date to mean a lot. And now that I'm nearing the end of this PhD program, I'm excited to really do work in that arena. And I was mentioning this to my therapist of all people, and she got so excited for me. And she started telling me about grants, and she started telling me about business plan, and she started walking me through all the things that she's done for her organization. And then she stopped and she said, when do you want me to meet you somewhere so I can walk you through all of this and help you get started? And there's some women I want to introduce you to, and there's all these conferences that are coming up that I want you to come with me to go to. And it was just phenomenal. I didn't expect that, right? I was kind of sharing all the things that were on my mind at the moment. Those are the people that we need in our lives, and not everybody has them. And it's a really great feeling. So I want to pause, and I want anybody to come off of mute and tell me, how do you define a mentor? And I'm going to try to find your faces again. There you go. Anybody at all? How do you define a mentor?
Someone who guides and supports you through either a personal or professional advancement.
Okay, love it. Travis, your mouth is moving, but we don't hear you. Nope, still no. Erica, is it just me, or I can't hear either one of them?
I could not hear them as well.
Okay, wait.
There we
What
go.
about
There we
now?
go.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was simply saying I agree with your description of your mentors, that I think mentors are those people who sometimes can see things in you that you do not have that you can't see for yourself. And they inspire you and they help you walk through this whole process. And I too have had mentors and sponsors who've really changed my life. So your story is phenomenal. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Erica.
And I'll actually I love that what Erica said, and I'll kind of align with that. Somebody who challenges you to make a difficult choice that you might not have made otherwise.
I love it. I love it. What about a sponsor? What's the difference? What do you think a sponsor is?
I'll go. Had a nice chunk of this in my lit review. A sponsor is someone who's invested in your professional advancement.
Yeah.
can also offer guidance like a mentor, but a mentor is definitely on the personal and can be professional support, but a sponsor is invested in your career mobility.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ra.
Quennette,
You're an expert there now.
Travis posted also his definition of a mentor in the chat. Do you want me to read it for you?
Oh, yes, I can't see the chat.
Okay, so a mentor is Travis Jones said, a mentor is someone to look up to and aspire to follow great qualities in them.
Mm.
Thanks
Love
for
it, love it.
Travis.
Thank you, Travis. Always so insightful. You got to figure out why your mic's not working.
Can I jump in here for a sec?
Yes.
As far as the sponsorship conversation, it's also the person that speaks your name in places where you're not in yet, right? So it's that person that shows up for you, that's saying your name, that's speaking to your qualities and what you bring to the table in spaces where you haven't stepped foot in yet. Opening doors, creating opportunities as well.
Absolutely, Dr. Gabby. Thank you. And so I'll share with you all what Gallup has defined as a mentor and a sponsor, which are very simplified and reductionist definitions. Okay, let's see. There we go. Where mentors share knowledge and they provide guidance. So they help you understand things that you don't know, which is why I continue to seek out advice from these women who have served as mentors. When I really do have a question about something, they can help guide me. Sponsors actively promote growth, provide access to opportunities at work, and advocate for career advancement. So to Dr. Gabby's point, they're speaking your name when you're not in the room. And many times I've had sponsors and I didn't even know it. And we'll talk about how in a little bit. Show of hands, how many of you actually have a formal mentor? Either your actual hand or your virtual hand. Okay. Okay, what about a sponsor? How many of you actually have a formal sponsor or more, one or more? I saw like a this. All right, we're going to talk about that because only 42% of women report having a mentor in the workplace, and the rates are much lower in terms of sponsoring at 22%. This is really interesting because research shows that only 71% of executives choose to mentor employees of their same race and gender. But women only account for 23% of senior leadership roles. Because when we think about sponsors, those are typically people in higher level positions whose words are trusted, that can get you into spaces. And so those numbers don't really work well to continue to advance women in the workplace. Firmly believe that to achieve the dreams that you have in this world and to be pushed to dream bigger than you already have, you need a team around you. And that team should include one or more mentors and one or more sponsors. So you may have all heard this quote before: well-behaved women seldom make history. The way this phrase is used today is actually taken out of its original context, where Ulrich really wanted to express her discontent with the fact that the everyday woman was not celebrated, the housewife, the mother, the everyday working woman. However, I will say that I personally do not want to be a well-behaved woman, and I do plan to be a complete disruption to complacency, the unfair treatment of marginalized populations, and the status quo in education and career readiness for disadvantaged youth. I can't do this alone, though. I need people in my corner that I can learn from and people who will help open doors for me. With that, I have a call to action. I want you all, if you don't have one, find a mentor. Engage in introspection. Where are your gaps? Where do you have opportunity to continue to grow? Proactively connect with whoever your mentors are. Don't wait. Don't spend years apart and then decide that you're going to go back. What's that regular connection point? Be open to the feedback that they give you, because if you're not going to listen, if you're not going to incorporate it some kind of way, then there's probably no point in having that mentor. Sometimes having a mentor happens organically, and sometimes you have to seek them out. So for those of you who didn't raise your hands, establish a plan now for identifying and actively connecting with a mentor. Those who have mentors, I would love to know, are you actively connecting with them? What are you learning from them? What are some best practices that you would share with those who don't have mentors or who aren't currently utilizing their mentors to the best of their ability? Is anybody regularly meeting with a mentor?
I meet with mine, Quennette.
All right.
Yeah. Happens to be the first boss I had at Microsoft, and he's pretty amazing. So I'm still like stalking partially. This is being recorded, so we'll use a lighter word. But when someone sees that potential in you and they have the power to change your outcomes, I think a lot of it is also on you because they're busy people to maintain and follow and, cultivate a relationship that they're also getting something. I always try to show up with what I call a gift. Like, what can I bring that they don't have in their lives that is helpful to them, that I, from my unique position, can offer them? And I'm not going to go into the conversation, but I had a conversation like that recently. And you reach a certain point where you were kind of equals, but you still look up to the person. So now it's much more of a give and take. But I think it's a wonderful thing to cultivate.
Thank you, Kareem. Crystal.
I more encouragement to attract professional mentor and academic mentor. My
I'm
academic
sorry, Crystal,
mentor have
you're
not been
breaking up.
keeping up. Can you hear me?
Oh, there we go. Yep.
Is it how is it? I I've not been my academic mentor as much.
Oh, we lost her. Erica.
Yes, so I'm glad you asked that question. I actually meet with an academic mentor who's now become one of my close friends. At least, once a quarter we go for coffee, we talk about what my plans are, et cetera, et cetera. I was, like you, very fortunate to have people that sponsored me in that for instance, with my master's program, I had several professors invite me to participate in research studies with them. And so I was able to go to conference and have my name listed with all the PhDs, et cetera, et cetera. And so some of those folks I still continue to have relationships with. But also, you also mentioned your LLC. I was thinking one of the reasons I went ahead and applied at Pepperdine and another school was because I met with my SBA mentor, right? And he asked me, what do you really want to do? And I just happened to say, well, I mean, if I had my druthers right now, I'd work on my PhD. And he said, then why are we talking about this business right now? Why don't you apply? And so my assignment was, he said, okay, when we meet in 2 weeks, I want to know that you applied at least 2 schools. Who knew? And but all of that energy coming towards me, suggesting that I, pursue the PhD, it really is I guess it gave me the confidence to do it when I maybe had thought about it, but didn't really take the time to investigate, to find. And so it was that challenge from the mentor. And someone mentioned that earlier, that they kind of challenge you to do things that you perhaps would not have done on your own. So, yeah.
Well, I'd like to thank your mentor for gifting you to me. So,
I love it. Absolutely.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Crystal, I see that you're back. Did you want to try again? Okay. All right. So my next one is be a mentor. What skills and expertise do you have? How much time can you realistically offer someone? So is anyone on this call a mentor to others? No, yes, maybe. Raise a hand. Well, I would recommend it. Okay, I see a couple. You want to Kareen's point, it definitely is something that the mentee should own, but be engaged in that mentorship relationship. I know many of you, and I know that you have a lot to offer other people, younger people, early career people. And when we look at the statistics, especially from a perspective of women, where the majority of us do not have mentors or sponsors, how can we be the change that we want to see? Find a sponsor. Again, mentoring and sponsoring is different, where a mentor can continue to feed you things that you don't know, can fill some of the gaps, where a sponsor is actually putting their names on the line for you. They're putting their reputation out there for you. They're speaking your name in rooms, again, to Dr. Gabby's point, where you're not at. So how do you excel in your chosen career field or whatever it is you're doing? How do you have clear goals? So this person can be confident in you. How do you build credibility? Do what you say that you're going to do so they can trust that they can put your name out there and speak your name to people who may not otherwise get to know who you are. And then ask. I think there's a lot of people who are probably waiting for someone to swoop in and say, hey, I'll be your sponsor. And unfortunately, that's not the way it works. I will say that there have been a few people in my career who have definitely opened the door because I was a hard worker, but to have an active sponsor that I regularly connected with, regularly shared my goals with, that took intentionality and it took me asking the question. So I have 2 active sponsors. I regularly update my resume and send it to them. Anytime a goal changes, I make sure that they have it because not only are they well connected, but they can also give me feedback. And if something ever comes available, and they're like, oh my gosh, this person needs to know Quennette or Quennette needs to know this person, then they're up to date and up to speed on where I am. So please, 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 I'm actually going to leave you guys with some homework today. So think about who that person, those persons should be, or as you're at your next conference, as you're at your next event, who are some people that you think would be great as sponsors? And then sponsor others. Now you have to be in a position of power or authority or influence to actually be a sponsor. And you may be there, you may not be there. But if you're not there yet, plan to be a sponsor eventually. There are a couple of studies that I've stumbled upon where women in general aren't necessarily the most helpful to other women because there is this battle for power and this fear that there's not enough for everyone. The scarcity mentality. Now, it's not all cases. There are definitely some studies that refute that. But be a sponsor. Be a sponsor. Generate the influence that you need to be an effective sponsor. Become a good judge of character and talent, because again, it is your name that you're putting out there. But take a risk. And I can stand before you today because so many people took a risk on this poor girl from Memphis, Tennessee, who had no direction, who didn't know what a career was, who had no clue about a 401k, who knew nothing. And where I am today, I can owe to people who actually saw something in me and took risks.
May I share something? I really love that, I guess I'm sharing whether or not anybody says anything, so forgive me. But I love this conversation about what it really is about to be a mentor or a sponsor. And one of the reasons I'll share, and I want to be a little bit, I want to be very delicate. I have run into a number of people who call themselves mentors, not sponsors, but mentors. And I kind of question, that sort of thing. So I think one thing that's really important about the mentorship position or that role, let's say role, is that it's not about ego. It's not about you. It's about helping, about cultivating new leadership, about contributing to a profession, to it's really a giving thing. And So I just wanted to share that because I've found it really interesting sort of hearing that perspective. So I think what you've said has really aligned with my understanding as well and elevated the role from anything having to do with ego or yourself. It's sort of like transformational leadership is elevated above anything having to do with leader. It's really about the evolution of others. So thank you for indulging me.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Brame. All right. So what I want to provide you guys with are a few resources. So feel free to scan these QR codes and save these documents. The first one is an NSF mentor guide. Some of it is very specific to granting, but there is actually a lot of very useful information there regarding what a mentor is, what they do, how to be an effective mentee, setting up regular meetings. It's a pretty lengthy document. It's very, very detailed. And so I thought it would be helpful for people who are probably just starting out on that journey of mentoring or becoming a mentor. Just some tools that will be helpful and useful that you could pass along or adjust and do your own thing. But there, again, are tons of resources out there. I just wanted to provide a few here. The second one is the importance of sponsorship. And so this is some research that talks about why sponsors are important, what they are in a little more detail than we're able to cover in a 45-minute session. So really good nuggets there. And then the last one is specific to sponsoring women, where we talked about it a little bit. And there is a huge opportunity here for women to have sponsors, to know how to get sponsors and to be sponsors. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity in the world of sponsorship in terms of women in their career, especially in those worlds where we are, which is almost all of them, where we are underrepresented, whether it be in leadership, in STEM, et cetera. We need each other. And here is your homework. We did not have time to get into all of the different roles that you need to support your career growth. And whether this be a career in academia, in the corporate world, in research, whatever it is, we all need a support network. I only touched on mentors and sponsors here. Some of you in your examples of the people who are in your corner, you gave examples of folks who would be like your accountability partner, and things like that. But when you look at this list, and if you have gaps in this list, please work to fill those. So again, we talked about, so be a mentor, get a mentor, get a mentee, get a sponsor, get a protege, be a sponsor for someone. Who are your peer mentors? Who are you on the same level with? They can provide feedback from your level. I will say the majority of my mentors are several steps ahead of me. But there are some people at my level who I definitely admire, and I definitely lean on them for their expertise and their knowledge. Who's your coach? Who's your advisor? Who's going to connect you to people? Who is your accountability partner that's willing to call you out and let you know when you're screwing up? We all need somebody like that in our lives. Thank you, Kareen, for being that person for me. You don't know it yet. We all need an advocate and a role model. I'm sure the list can go on, but I want you to noodle around these few for now. All right, we could talk for hours about all the people you need in your corner, and we definitely don't have enough time to go into all of that. But if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, how about we go together? Thank you. So I do want to stop sharing. And there we go. I think that there were some links that were dropped in the chat, one being the link to your actual homework. I'm not sure if there was anything else, Elias, that was.
Nope, we just dropped the worksheet.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And of course, I'm not checking for anyone's homework, but if you do want an accountability partner, feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to be that person for you. But now I want to open it up. What's some other advice that you have? What are your thoughts around the different roles on that list? And what advice do you guys want to have or share, impart, or anybody have a specific story that they can also use to highlight why sponsors and mentors are so important?
Quennette, there is one message from Karine in the chat that I think it is worth to read. Do you want me to read for you, or do you want to read?
Well, let me know which one it is. So go ahead and read it.
Yeah, usual social capital, that's sponsorship, connect people. Don't help women perpetuate the patriarchy, sorry, which has scarcity mentality versus an abundance mentality. And there are a lot of likes in her comment. So I just want to acknowledge her comment there.
Thank
Karine,
you.
do you want to add something?
I love that. It's another Friday night down with the patriarchy.
Yeah.
It's just kind of the usual. But you know, Quennette is very humble. She's more than an equal partner in mentorship, sponsorship, and pushing. So I think this is just such a remarkable, I still learn new things about you, Quennette, of course, but the fact that you gave us this intentionality around our mentors and sponsors, because we get, you know, we have other things going on. We get a little lazy. We assume what we put into the social bank is there for us, but people get busy, their cups get full, and then you're like, need your mentor. I think the only advice I would say is don't wait till you need your mentor to seek mentoring. Have a regular cadence that you're, you know, constantly can depend on each other. So when things are really bad, you don't have to backtrack to, oh, let me tell you, I actually moved to San Diego 6 years ago, and then we catch you up to speed. I think that narrow it down to maybe 3 people that you make that investment with, but then you're regulars with each other. So they're really up to speed with your life, and who you were the last time they talked to may not be who you are this time. It's really important. Those are the things that really came to my mind. And yeah, I think sometimes you feel like you might not have power, but just connecting people is power. That's one way you can dip into your social capital. And I was reminded of this today, that women who don't help women truly live in a world of scarcity, and scarcity is truly a competency that comes from the patriarchy. So we need to break that by feeling like there's an abundance of everything out there. So thank you for the reminder.
Absolutely.
Really
There's
nice.
room for all of us at the top. Thank you, Karine.
Absolutely.
Anybody else?
I get to talk, Quennette, it's okay for a guy to talk in the women's call.
Yes, absolutely. Travis tried, and I guess I assumed that men couldn't talk, and then Elias said something, so I'm like, okay, we're good.
I consider who's now retired, but the former department chair in the business school who was a sponsor, in my opinion, for me, who got me a chance to teach here. I thought she was a mentor 11 years ago when she was my first professor here at Pepperdine, and then later after graduation, she became the chair, called up, and then advocated for me and was a sponsor and gave me a chance and actually bypassed several layers of stuff we're supposed to have done first. And some of the faculty got kind of mad about it because she like, what's special about him? Why you get him a chance? Okay, well, someone likes you, I guess it'll help move forward. But I credit a lot to her, Dr. Tompkins, letting me have a chance. Now, once you're there, you got to prove yourself, but she gave me a chance at least.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, John.
So I tried to pay it back. And I think last count was, I didn't get 10 people jobs, but I got 10 people the chance to become adjuncts, and they themselves got themselves jobs, but I advocated for them and they themselves earned it. But yeah, so I tried to pay back if I could.
Absolutely. Being an advocate is really important. Those connections that Karine talked about are invaluable.
You know, I'm going to share something. Sean shared something recently in our group chat. And it was a letter from one of his former students who wrote in and said, how much she appreciated his advocacy. And so it just made me think about in my professional life, the same type letters and accolades that have come from people. You never know how much the encouragement means to an individual. Dr. Miramontes made mention to not, you don't know who's calling your name, who's speaking your name when you're not in the room. There have been times when I know that I've done that, and young people have come back and thanked me tremendously, and I've seen them grow, especially in the political world here in Georgia, giving a person a job on a campaign and then seeing them 3-4 years later where they've worked their way up and now they're a political director or a campaign manager themselves, et cetera. And so I've witnessed that. And the other thing that you said that really resonates with me is that there is enough room for everyone. What do they say? There's enough bread for all of us to eat, right? So you don't have to compete. And I absolutely, if there's one thing that I definitely have shared with people, and I think I've even shared it with you, Quennette, and other folks on the call, we don't need to compete with one another. And young women, I always encourage young women, my daughter, et cetera, to uplift other women. Not only are we destroying the patriarchy, but it feels good. It feels good to see people that you care about thrive, right? So I don't know, I just felt adding that little observation. So I'm going to stop commenting because I'm doing too much.
Love it. Love it. One of our classmates made a comment recently, and I won't share, but talked about how all the mentors that they've had were men, and that never really had women who stepped up to the plate to be a mentor. That story is not unfamiliar to me. Again, being in HR, I've been in HR for 10 years now. There's definitely a lot of horror stories when it comes to people who are attempting to find a mentor, even if it's mixed in with ego, like Dr. Brame said, or a person agrees to be a mentor and then disappears. You're ghosted by your mentor. or things like that. And so it's a precious balance that needs to be protected, absolutely nurtured. And have that regular coffee meeting, like Corrine mentioned. There's nothing worse than needing somebody, but then feeling like you don't have the social capital to pull on them, and so you don't. And so you miss out on the opportunity. So if it's been a year, if it's been 10 years, maybe just reach out to that person, just say, hey, is this still your phone number? All right. And with that, I will say that is the end of what I got for y'all today. Thank you all for joining. I'll turn it back over to Asha.
Asia's